Previously on Legends of Aelos. As the last day of Silence's oppression on Lake Grasp eclipses, our party is settling in for some proper rest and relaxation. There's still much ahead of the five, and which path they will follow next will take some time and conversation on what might be the next best course to follow. After spending some time with Zagia and Breyer, Karun is approached by Dominicus as he departs, seemingly vexed and requesting that he speak to him for a moment, to which he obliges as the two head down to the bar top on the main floor. Dom seems to be troubled at the fact his anger can sometimes seemingly get the better of him, and he was hoping that Karun could give some advice as to how he might be able to better mitigate his emotional reactions. Karun assures Dom that he's not the only one to experience this breadth of emotionality. In fact, Karun actually experiences it on a regular basis. He just does a decent job of maintaining his outer composure. That said, Karun appreciates the position that Dom is coming from, and he wants to help him if it is truly his own personal goal. But he feels that advice from him might not be the best course of action for Dom. It might be better that he seeks sources of a similar background, lest Dom sacrifices prowess as a barbarian and the skills that Dom is so proficient with. Meanwhile, Rowan, having taken up residence on the main floor for the evening, hears and joins them. He supports Dom along with Karun. They both remind him that they will do whatever they can to help him in improving himself, but they reassure that they don't hold who he is and what he does against him. After all, Dominicus is a member of the Five through and through, and from the beginning, as well as onward. Rowan does leave him with the advice that if Dom is unable to find the answers elsewhere in books or other sources, that sometimes just simply taking that extra moment to think about the situation before one reacts, that could perhaps be enough for him to find the answers within himself. Whether to listen to one's heart or one's head is a dynamic that we all must deal with in life. Morning comes, and the party finds Breyer quite eager on heading out for the day, though on her way out, she does encounter Aiden Asterion standing at the door as she opens it. He is here to address and update the party, to which they gather to hear. Aiden informs them of the discovery they have gone through, the banning of the spirits that Silence had been importing under the brand Mr. S, and also informs them that after the investigation, Mr. Peter Silence has been found guilty and will be executed come the next day. There is no update on the status of the suspicious black-masked individual, but the Order have put out riders and ears as far as they can in pursuit. The topic of joining the Order itself is also brought up, but even Aiden acquiesces that the Five could be a more versatile force were they to continue operating under their own banner. As Aiden and the Five speak, another group is seen approaching to enter the inn, gowned in raiment and garments portraying their affiliation to the Temple of Light. Their leader, Headmother Catherine, addresses Aiden as she greets her brother along with the party. She comes with thanks, but also the anticipated haughty disposition that's to be expected now of Temple members, considering the talents and backgrounds of the party whole. Despite the tension, she is ultimately there to thank them, update the Temple efforts on aiding the town in its recovery, but she is also there to recall the paladins currently on retainer by Aiden in the Order. After she departs, Breyer asks Aiden as to what the true disposition of his sister is, and it turns out it's much more than that she is merely a believer of the current edicts that are being propagated by the Temple. She is both a proponent and progenitor of the movement itself. Following the visit from the Temple members, Breyer continues along her way as she had initially intended. She does not convey what exactly her goal is to the party, but she also does not come off as troubled or vexed, and the town should certainly be safer now. As she heads to market, she procures a few baking ingredients before heading to her next and true destination, Amansar's. She wants to bake some treats for the party back at the inn, and she believes that Amansar would be the perfect individual to assist her, to which he obliges. They return to the inn and proceed in whipping up a special batch of donut treats. Meanwhile, as Rowan and Dom set about fixing up the main entrance and frame of the door, Asher heads with Karun to both feed and speak with the Neriminian guests still upstairs in their room. Karun speaks with Vildriel, and ultimately he consents to him probing his mind so that Karun could be certain that they pose no threat, despite how amicable their dispositions have been so far. Karun uses his detect thoughts ability, and as anticipated, Vildriel offers no resistance. Karun not only discovers there's no ill intent, he in fact discovers that Vildriel appears to be on this journey to right what he believes are his own personal wrongdoings. All these students that he had taught, and those especially whom had fled, seeing the potential corruption now, he believes he must vindicate himself and try assisting those before they too become corrupted, much in the way that Kethiel and Namus were. Karun determines that he himself is the only one to actually possess a truly purified phylactery. The dim states of the others is merely due to a lack of developed attunement to the entity within. After the investigation of sorts is over, Asher and Karun return to the others, as they are now starting to partake of the donuts and donut holes that Breyer, Zagya, and Amansar have prepared for them all. The baked treats have all the proper ingredients, including love, plus some extra color and flavor from Zagya's moon wine. Though, after consuming some, it becomes readily apparent that there was one special extra ingredient added, the influence that Amansar aided Breyer in adding, that has certain psychotropic effects. The reality of the party, or at least their vision of it, starts to take a turn for the peculiar. Donut holes turn to cotton balls, and even Bolt appears and disappears in a mystical fashion as the visions, or better, hallucinations, develop. Eventually, the experience intensifies to a point where ultimately the party gets into a fight with a table? Obviously, in their defense, it didn't appear as a table to them. After the battle, the group starts to regain their senses, in time at least to warn Coria that she may not want to consider consuming any of the treats, considering her current condition. The interesting events of the morning now past. Eventually, the evening comes, along with Aiden and a hero's feast, as promised by Aiden for their efforts. The party eats after Aiden departs, and some time passes before a somewhat familiar face enters as a patron of the establishment. Dacia, the mercenary guard from Scranton Scrolls, is looking for lodgings when she happens to notice the party is also there. Obviously, there are some that she's a bit more familiar with, a point that Dom does bring up, despite her having conveyed that she is no longer in pursuit of any bounty on his head. Aurel also makes an appearance downstairs as they speak, but only briefly, for it is not long before he is set on a quest to somehow take a plate of these potent donut holes up to his wife, after having very recently consumed them himself. As the night winds down, and a few members and Dacia play a game of dice, Aiden returns, requesting for a Amansar. It appears that he is in need of the alchemist for something. And it is from here we shall continue the story of the Legends of Aelos.